are really all incredibly lucky tonight to have Professor Gunter PAULI speak. You will tell in a minute his levels of both clarity, determination, but also humanity are really impressive. He coined the term blue economy. Many of you are familiar with it. And here you have him. This man is the blue economy. So enjoy, everyone.
Can I have your mic? Oh, this one works as well? Separate? Yeah. No? Yes? Does it work?
No?
Yeah.
Yes, it works. Hi, how are you? Did you have a good dinner? This is not... Shall I change the... Oh, yes, that's right. You told me. I have another one. Yes. I'm so sorry. See, sometimes my kids think that I act very confused in order to confirm that I'm a professor. So, is this working? Great. Glad you're in the first row, Maxine. Great, good to see you. How are you? Good? Okay. So you had a good dinner? You need a cup of coffee? I'm your coffee. Okay? You better realize this is going to be a very mental type of coffee. I'm going to be spending here the time that you want. You have one big risk with me. When I start talking, I don't stop. Because I get excited about what I'm doing. Okay? So if you really want to stop me to stop, then you tell me stop and give us a chance to talk to you. But in the meantime, let me share with you that there is only one rule for this conference tonight. And the one rule of the conference tonight is that there is no rule. You can interrupt me anytime you want. You can come on stage if you like. You can leave and don't have to be sorry about it. You know, so just be yours. Any suggestions? Okay, good. So we can start. Maybe we turn this light off. I wanted to have the lights turned off because I don't like to sit in a room where I can't look people in the eye. I can't look in the eye anymore. I'm going to have to make a choice. Well, I'll look at your eyes. Okay? I can see you. I think it's very important for anyone who addresses an audience that we shouldn't be talking into the dark and throw shit at you. We should be looking at each other and actually connect with each other. I'm a product of a book that was published in 1971. Who knows this book? Wow. Normally you're over 60 when you know that book. So you're young. Limits to Growth was actually the first time mathematical models were used in order to look at the complexity of the Earth, and by putting in feedback loops, we got out of the linear thinking and the linear thoughts, and we realized that actually when there are even small incremental changes every year in population, we're going to go through an explosion of demographics. We didn't know that. We just saw every year a couple million extra. But if you extrapolate that over 50 years in a systems dynamics model, then you're actually seeing very quickly that we're moving our world towards something that today we call climate change. That was predicted in 71. It was very clear for all of us. We wouldn't have to have sustainable development goals if we would have at least read a little book and realized that the way we're eating, sleeping, consuming, using water is putting us straight against a brick wall. And we know it. And to me what is very frustrating is we knew it since the 70s and we did nothing about it. So when I talked to the students 2 days ago in Brussels, I said, don't go to school anymore. Spijbel allemaal. Now I got you in the first row, huh? Yeah. You know, we have to realize that this whole idea is actually contained by limits. But I needed to meet this man, Aurelio Peccei, who was the founder of the Club of Rome, the president of Fiat, And when he, as an executive of a large enterprise, said, there's no way we can keep on selling more cars. Dixit, 1968. I mean, we can't be selling more cars in 1968, said by then one of the largest car companies in the world. So we have clearly not been able to listen to people. We clearly haven't been able to process in our minds to the point that we change our action. Now, to me, the most important design activity that I undertake is the systems design, these modeling designs, these mathematical designs, these equations, these feedback loops. That allows me actually to get a grasp of what is happening either in a community, in a country, or for the whole world. I think that everyone should learn systems design, or if you like to call it today artificial intelligence, that's the same. We need to be able to master the bigger picture before you can start designing a product. How can you separate the product from the bigger picture? How can you separate the process from the bigger picture? And the bigger picture is life. Life on earth. With quality. With fairness. With ethics. You know, in 1989 I wrote a book. And the title was Upcycling. You heard of that? 89. I need students to read the book and apply it. I have had many students who read it and didn't do anything. I mean, that is not good as a professor. It means I'm not teaching well. In 1990, I launched the concept of zero waste, which is somewhat known around the world today. In 1991, I said zero waste is not enough. We have to have zero emissions. And so what I did is that instead of talking and continuing to talk about it, I sought inspiration with people and I refused to go through the academics. Excuse me, I'm at a school, you're learning here, but 99% of what you learn is a waste of time. Think to listen to Pink Floyd? I mean, you still remember the song? I mean, this is my time, not your time. We don't need their education. We don't need their mind control. We're in the worst mind control than we ever had in our history. Worst. And we still go to school to begin the business. But these are some of the people, I don't know, it's not very easy to put this, it's very sharp. But can you recognize some people? I mean, you know the Pope, no? Who else can you recognize? Steve Wozniak, yes. I made the first partnership with Apple Computer in Europe. We started desktop publishing, and we started database management on Apple computers. Why would we choose Apple computers at the time? Because Apple was the only one that had a keyboard that operated with one keyboard, 17 languages. Ingenious. You don't find it in any book. No one describes that. But if you can have one keyboard in 17 languages, instead of having 17 keyboards, that means you can actually operate much more data through your computer. And people can work 24 hours a day speaking different languages all the time. You know, these are small details. Who else do you recognize?
Marina Silva?
Yes! Wow! Brasileira?
Sim.
Ah, vês? Como está você? Ah, hoje. Como vai? Tudo bom? Ah. When she became minister, she invited me for 3 days to spend time with her. And she's a marvelous individual. Marvelous. Why didn't she become president? I don't know. You weren't there to vote, probably. Yeah.
I voted from here.
Okay, good. Anyway, we love her. You know this lady? It's my wife. And I gotta put her up as well, right? I mean, but this was with the inspiration I got from all these people through different activities, I decided to translate that into a production system. That means the design of the product, The design of the process and the design of the system had to be zero waste, zero emissions, upcycling. Why would I settle for anything less? I mean, the ethics imposes on me to go for zero, not to go for zero, to start from zero. Zero is not the goal. Zero is the starting point. And that is where ethics play a role. It's not because I like zero. We need to realize that we've had such a negative, devastating impact on the environment that the least we can do is say from here on, no more impact. That's zero. I mean, don't settle for less impact. It's like stealing less. Stealing less is stealing. Doing less bad is bad. And ladies, may I just suggest to you that you will never be a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. You either have cancer or you don't. That means that we cannot settle for doing less bad and say we're doing great. And this is again where we need to self-impose standards that make sense as an ethical and moral person. Not because it's good for business. I don't care if it's good or bad for business. Business needs to be guided by ethical principles, and doing bad to the earth and to my neighbor is bad, and that is in the Bible, which is read by quite a few. So, this is my factory. So, a wooden factory, made with local Belgian wood. This is a factory in Belgium. Who knows the factory? Who's been there? You design students, 60 kilometers from here, you haven't seen this factory? Get on the bus. Or take a bicycle. You know, it's all made of local wood. We designed the biggest parking space that Belgian companies have ever seen. This is a joke. Laugh. We had no parking space. We decided that we're not going to provide parking space. And why don't we have parking space? Because I decided to pay people to ride a bicycle to work. We're in Belgium, no? They're not all automatically hopping on a bike like you guys in the Netherlands. But what happens when you pay people €0.50 a kilometer to ride the bicycle to work? Guess what? They ride the bicycle to work. May I suggest to you this is a design of how your business model works? This is part of the design of the system. And people told me this must have been very expensive. No! Having to buy land for 120 cars with an entry system, with a cart, with lights, with security, that over the whole period of 5 years was €0.50 a kilometer for people to ride a bicycle. So, how do you do your business calculations? Are you just going to do your business modeling and your cost calculations? Or are you going to ask me now, what's the return you are getting when you're giving people the chance to ride the bicycle to work? Well, my return is healthy people. People who exercise 2 times a day. And that will reduce, for sure, heart problems and diabetes and obesity. And that is the way we have to think. Can we design business models? Design business models. In the factory, we're making soaps. You know the brand? Who uses the brand? Oh no. Oh no. This is not an advertising pitch. You don't have to buy it. But if you make soap, some of you know chemistry, if you make soap, it's an exothermic reaction. That means you make heat. So I decided to make a deal with the unions. And the deal with the unions was that I only had to have 11 degrees Celsius in the factory. And they agreed. You know why? Because I bought for everyone 5 sets of underwear from Patagonia. Capilene underwear. You know the underwear you need to go to the Himalayas? everyone was dressed in underwear from Patagonia. And of course something over it. I mean, come on, this is a factory. But we succeeded in saving 80% of the energy by putting on the right underwear. I mean, is this high tech? There's nothing to see with high tech. It's deciding to do it. And since we had an exothermic reaction, I'm the only industrial factory in the world at the time, I hope there are more now, that had zero energy consumption in factory. Zero. I promised myself it's going to be zero. And it's
What about lights?
everything else is done with what nature produces, like solar and wind and so on.
So you
Okay.
don't have light when there's no sun?
Oh, no. That means that we will have different base loads. We'll come to the energy section later. Okay? But what is key is that we can design our business models in a different way. Now, just between you and me, I've just negotiated an extra 10 minutes of presentation because I was supposed to do 30 minutes and I just said give me 10 minutes extra. So sometimes I will jump over a few things, but that's why we'll have a dialogue afterwards. Okay? That's the book I wrote, The Blue Economy, 43 languages by now. But what is more important is how do I work? Would you like to see where I sleep? That's where I sleep. Can you see it? Should we turn on the lights? I sleep on tatami. Who knows tatami? Japanese bar. Japanese, I sleep on tatami. I have one piece of furniture, table. That's it. And why do I sleep on tatami? Because I enjoy the shoji. Rice paper windows. Why? Because I don't need art. The art is always playing in the shades of my window. And that is what Japan is perfect at. It's never the same. It always moves. It always inspires. All my books have been written while I sit on tatami. I have to walk the talk, ladies and gentlemen. And so I love tatami, and I love the simplicity of Japanese life. But when you open your window, your shoji windows, I'm the most lucky man in the world because I have a garden of 150 square meters next to my house of 54 square meters. And in a garden of 150 square meters, I have the master gardener of the world. The greatest designer of gardens because he gives me the assurance, and after 24 years never failed, that every day there is a flower blossoming in my garden. You know what it means? This is design.
Like a squirrel? Like a
I don't have squirrels though. No, I don't. We can improve. But what is key for me is that if I have a flower, I know when I come to my place, after all the rushing around the world, and I wake up in the morning and open my windows, I look for the flower. This is how I work. We have to keep things simple and beautiful and inspiring. Because if we don't keep it simple, beautiful, and inspiring, I wonder how the design would look like. So, when my baby was born, this is the last one was born, I have 6 kids. Accuse me of overpopulation if you would like to. But they're brought up as avengers for the environment. When my little baby was born, this is the last one, Francesco Aurelio, I decided to have a crib made for him. This crib is made with traditional Chinese bamboo weaving techniques. So I wanted to have a crib where there was no metal, no glue used, only weaving into a crib. My wife, of course, was very smart in telling me it's probably a bit hard for the baby to sleep on. So I better find something very sustainable to make it a bit softer to sleep. So I went to talk to my other friends. And I hired 3,000 silkworms. And the silkworms made nearly a centimeter thick silk over the bamboo. Why would I do that? What is silk good for? You must be studying material science if proper designers. Silk is perhaps the only fiber that we know, natural fiber, where no fungus grows on. never a fungus, never a virus. Now, this is my baby. I want him to live in an environment without fungus and without virus. This is what nature designed for me. So I made that and said, it's beautiful. There he is, sleeping in the crib. You know, but then you realize this was a whole effort. So we decided to start building on the know-how of weaving with bamboo without glue and metals and having it all covered. And so we now have a line of lamps, and we have lamps made from woven bamboo with silk covers on it, made to order. We can't follow demand because we don't have enough bamboo weavers in China anymore. We're reviving the weaving techniques, and at the same time we're reviving the sericulture, the silk techniques, but not silk to make something high-tech, silk to make beauty and health. It's been on the cover of Elle. You know Elle? Yeah? We're selling. You know, you have to start. I always start anything new in design with a lot of passion and emotions related to something in life. Because that's how you can start going. And of course, if you have babies, you have this. So for the past 5 years, I've been working with a team headed by a lady out of Tokyo, out of Berlin, but from Tokyo. And we would like to do something about this. Now, I believe this is the biggest design challenge that has ever been launched on Earth. This absolutely ridiculous product called a diaper, which is made from 3 layers of different plastics, genetically modified trees, synthetic acrylic, in order to absorb all the liquids that the baby is excreting on a regular basis, in order to have that so well absorbed that the baby will feel dry all the time. And when the baby feels dry all the time, they will never sit down, feel the wetness and the coldness, and then say, I don't want diapers anymore. As a result, kids have diapers for 3-4 years. Great for P&G, great for Procter & Gamble. It's horrible for our landfills. And so we set out to redesign diapers. Because this is great. I mean, this is, I'm sorry to force you to look at it, but this is the best product a baby makes. Don't forget, the intestinal tract of the baby is lined with the richest varieties of the freshest and the most powerful bacteria. And they're the ones that secure that all the nutrition of the mother's milk is perfectly absorbed into the body and that little baby can grow into an adult. So don't say this is shit. This ain't shit. This is a gift from God. You can give it other names as well if you would like to. But what is key is that this needs to be reused. And so what we started is that I was in the bamboo business, as you just heard with those lamps, and so we started making bamboo charcoal, because bamboo charcoal is the best for your skin. Now what happens when babies have something around them, they have rash. And a baby with a reddish bum doesn't sleep. And when the babies don't sleep, parents are not happy. So what we've done is we've rethought what was really required, but with a system design. Our goal is to make black earth. Today we have in Berlin, every time a center of about 100 families, 100 babies. And we give the diapers for free. Diapers for free, made from bioplastics, with hemp inside, enriched with charcoal and a tiny bit of coffee to absorb the odor. And that, when the people want to get their new batch of diapers, they have to give me the old used ones. And with the old used ones, that is the condition for giving for free the new ones. And what we will do is we'll use the diapers and we'll turn them into terra preta, black earth. And with the black earth, no one pays for black earth. But when you have black earth, with only 1 kilogram of black earth, you have everything you need to grow an apple tree. Forever. You know how much black earth a baby produces every year? A ton. That means here I'm going into the system design. A ton is 1,000 kilograms. 1,000 kilograms is 1,000 trees. I've got 100 families. It's 100,000 trees a year. Where can we plant them? Have some space left? So around Berlin we're planting trees. Now after 10 years the trees will give me 50 kilograms of apples every year. Are you calculating now with me? 100,000 trees multiplied by 50 kilograms, that's 5 million kilograms of apples, thanks to the poo of 100 babies. You see what system design is? This is system design. This is how we turn the world around. We're not starting campaigning against the dirty plastics of Procter & Gamble. We're starting by saying, we want food, fresh apples in the city. And now let's see how the whole thing can be redesigned. But it means we need the bioplastics. And that is how we can turn design into an incredibly powerful force. We need water. We need health. More than anything else. And so I try to design systems that give me that. The beauty is if you work with nature and you design it well, you will have it forever without making any more efforts. That's the ultimate of design. Not every time producing new. Having the capacity to see the reality, change the conditions around you, and turn them into such a framework that you're able to benefit from the results forever, like the apples. The only thing we have to do is change the system of production and consumption. And of course the business models behind it. Here is a project that we've done in Latin America, in Colombia. Anyone from Colombia? Una colombiana, por favor. Siempre hay una colombiana presente, no? This is Las Gaviotas. You know Las Gaviotas. You've never been there? No. Las Gaviotas is a region in the Vichada. So it's close to the border with Venezuela. In the Vichada, that is 20 million hectares that were destroyed by the Spanish colonizers more than 250 years ago. And we asked ourselves the question, in that region there is a lot of gastrointestinal diseases. What is the system design we need in order to eliminate gastrointestinal diseases? Instead of asking yourself the question, what's the medicine we have to supply to the people? We don't supply medicine. We want a system to eliminate the gastrointestinal diseases. Runny tummies. Yeah? So, of course, the only way to do it is to have quality drinking water. But quality drinking water means you have to have trees. So we started regenerating the trees. We only used trees that had been growing in that region before. And we knew that because of the pollen study. We produce colophon, we produce turpentine, but when you have trees covering the soil, the pH of the soil changes, and you have biodiversity bouncing back. We planted one tree and we have 256 species of biodiversity, quasi equal to the Amazon forest, come back in 25 years. And then you have quality water. And when you have quality water, forever, thanks to the forest, people eliminate their gastrointestinal diseases. So we decided to offer everyone in the local population 3 liters of water for free forever. And every child at the age of 6 receives a bicycle. Now what happens when children ride a bicycle all day and they drink 3 liters of water? What happens?
I think they maybe go to the bathroom.
They have to go to the bathroom regularly. We'll use the diapers, don't worry. Ladies and gentlemen, took us 30 years. But after 30 years, we had to close the hospital for lack of patients. That is design pro-life. That is changing the framework of logic. And that allows us to feel like we can change the world. And I think that's something that we all should have as an addition. That kind of an approach, ladies and gentlemen, can bring us very far. And I look at situations like here in Argentina. Argentinos presentes. Ahora, las Argentinas también, por favor. Estamos allá en el norte, todo el norte de Jujuy, en la frontera con Bolivia. And who lives there in that part of the world? Who is the animal that thrives there? La vicuña. You know the vicuña? No! I mean, you know cashmere? 10 times better than cashmere, that's the vicuña. It is the absolute top of fibers in the world. From animals that only live at 4,500 to 5,000 meters altitude. Here they are. They have been providing fibers to the local people for more than 10,000 years. And you know what we did, the Europeans, when we got there? We'll put cows and sheep there. I'm sorry, I don't understand very well who was so stupid to put cows and sheep there. Because the La Vicuña had been giving livelihoods for 10,000 years. The first animal ever shaven to give a fiber to make clothing was a vicuña, and we replaced that with animals that come from Europe. And there we need to redesign. But the redesign means we have to have products. So if you go on your websites and you will see now Loro Piano, you know them, and Hermes. We only have 5 tons at the moment. That's all we can produce. But with 5 tons, we're generating a revenue for fibers that is equal to $40,000 for 10 kilograms. $4,000 per kilogram. That is the way that we can regenerate that ecosystem, have the vicuñas coming back, set up the weaving systems, but we need to rethink the weaving, because the weaving and las hiladeras, the making of the yarns, cannot be done with metals. That is process design. You need to do it with wood, because if you put it on metals, then you create an electrostatic framework. And electrostatics doesn't give you the right density of your fibers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is process design, product design, and our goal is to recover an ecosystem that has been destroyed by cows forced to bring milk to the people at 4,500 meters altitude. And the cows are too heavy, but there is a permafrost underneath. And the urine of the cows destroys the permafrost. Ladies and gentlemen, we sometimes don't understand what is called externalized costs. We don't know the impact of what we're doing. We are behaving like elephants in a porcelain store. We move around and our tail knocks everything over and we never even saw it. And this is where we need to have people like you who design. Which is it. about plastics?
Yes.
Sure, let's talk plastics. Waikiki Beach. You know Waikiki Beach? Hawaii? The place to go. Surfing. Surfing in plastics. Now it's very interesting. People are very worried about plastics. And you see them everywhere. And it's a disaster. But we don't seem to worry about so much about this plastics. I don't understand. I saw today in your restaurant that you are serving in a paper cup covered with a plastic. You are insane to do that. You should protest. Refuse to drink out of it. Because if you have a paper cup with a plastic lining it so it wouldn't leak, you're putting microparticles of plastics in your body. You're mummifying your liver at a rate of 3 to 10,000 microparticles per liter. Ladies and gentlemen, get up and change this, would you please? I'm being told it's new. Someone had some reflections and said you should be using plastics and paper cups. Are you not getting up and changing? Or are you just like in the military? The boss has ordered, you march. Are you? No, you're not. But what we've forgotten is we're worried about the plastics in the sea, but no one has been telling us that the plastic bottle that you're holding in your hand, that is 330 milliliters, that's 1,000 microplastics in your liver. You're mummifying yourself. Mummifying, that means you're accumulating plastic so you become a mummy. We didn't know that this was the case. And everyone talks about plastics in the sea. No one talks about your kidneys or your liver. So I decided now 10 years ago to start rethinking plastics. And this is again product design. You know the name of this flower? Een distel in het Nederlands, le chardon en français, il cardo in Italiano, cardoon in English. This flower is called what? In English? A weed. A weed means we have no clue what to do. Unkraut auf Deutsch. Kraut is a herb. Means it's not even a herb. I mean, I don't get it. So what have we done? For the past 40 years, when we see this, we go to the store and we buy glyphosates and we spray glyphosates over it. Now for 40 years. Now if something after 40 years is still growing, with all the spraying of the glyphosates, wouldn't you come to the conclusion that we should change the product? So we looked at it and said, what is it? Because I have great respect for someone who survived the onslaughts of chemicals for so long. I appreciate the underdog who survives, even being hit for 40 years in a row. And it seems like this is like an artichoke, and the oil is like a sunflower oil, and the stem is very rich in cellulose. Now here is where our design comes in. When you have an oil, then you only with pressure and temperature you can turn it into an acid. And when you have a cellulose, you turn that into a sugar, and a sugar you turn into an alcohol. When you have an alcohol and an acid, you make esters, plastics. We have to demystify plastics, ladies and gentlemen. I think it is one of the basic courses your first year that everyone in this school learns how to make plastics themselves. With a vegetable oil and a sugar. And it is so simple, it's embarrassing. I mean, we like to think about these very complex systems that only rich people in huge companies like Shell and Exxon can do. But you can do it yourself. Now, this is not what you do yourself. But we have industrialized it in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen. We have turned this into an industry itself, and we're using all petrochemical facilities that are not competitive in Europe anymore, and we transform them into biorefineries to make bioplastics. And then we have found that one of the acids you can get out of the cardoon, the thistle, is a substitute for glyphosate. Nature's revenge. Nature is providing the chemicals to replace the glyphosates. I think we need to take a step back sometimes and ask ourselves, how are plastics made? And figure out that you can make it right here in your own labs. And when you know how to make plastics, then you can start designing plastics which are biodegradable in soil, in sun, and in the sea. Because today we have biodegradable plastics that are only degrading in the soil and not degrading in the sea. Wow! Who was so stupid to do that? I mean, how have we given a license to a company that makes plastics that don't degrade in the sea, only in the soil? I mean, isn't this a design error? I mean, didn't someone goof up in design? And I believe that that's quite shocking that in 2019, the industry is still not prepared to redesign the polymers so they will all be degradable all the time in sun, sea, and in the soil. This is why, again, we need ethics. This is why we need very clear principles on how we should operate. Now, I've given you 5 examples. Do you want 25 more, or should we start debating?
Yeah. No, I was thinking about how we can move on to the next part. So
Can we turn on the lights so I can see you better?
excellent opportunity right now. Thank you so much. Okay, so I guess I'll start with the first question. I think you addressed a really, I think with the cups, the paper cups and the plastic cups, that we have a problem here where I think it's hard for people to get out of the habit. So one of the questions I had was, how do you go about changing people's habits in certain kinds of key situations? Like, what's the first thing that you had to change, I guess, from a personal side?
So I think there are 2 big ways of changing your habits. One is it that you smoke all your life and you go to the doctor and the doctor informs you have cancer. You have lung cancer and you decide to stop smoking. The bad news hits you and you decide to change. I mean, I think it's very unfortunate that the bad news has to hit you. So I prefer the other way. I prefer to be so inspired, and I prefer to have such a great vision on the opportunities right before me, that I start dreaming and I start living my dreams. That's the way I prefer to change people. Unfortunately, related to the environment, for the past 50 years, we've been giving everyone the bad news. And if you don't change, then this is going to happen, and look at the rising sea levels, and look at the acidification of the ocean, and look at destruction, and so on. What we realize is the large majority of the people don't change, because it doesn't inspire them. And I think this is really what I try to do, and why I need you as designers to start designing things that are very inspiring, that really blow people's mind, even if it's just a diaper and an apple tree. And you know, this is, I believe, where we need to work on. We need to inspire more people, not just with the beauty of the design and the perfection of the making of the product, but with the whole thing, the whole story you can tell behind it, and prove that it actually is changing the world.
I heard that a long time ago, not that long, but people used paper straws and we changed it to plastic straws. What do you think about it, and how do you want to change that?
First of all, I don't think we need straws. I think very often, design principle number one is replace something with nothing. Because we are over-consuming all the time. And with our overconsumption, sometimes we need to realize that it's not the convenience of being able to suck and think about the nipple of your mom you were sucking on, because that's the psychology behind it. We need to sometimes say the way it is. There's a psychology behind it, and we have perfectly imitated it, and therefore people enjoy sucking on a straw. But we don't need it. I think we've cut the umbilical cord, we've left the house, and we should be able to do it without the straw. And so to me, this comes to the very important principle. Design sometimes means substitute something with nothing. And it doesn't change your life at all.
Yeah. So the
Is that okay? Are you happy?
The blue economy seems very much about a solution to the system within the system. And my question to you is, as an economist and a designer, something like a no-growth economy, or has something like this ever crossed your mind? And do you have an opinion? Are we able to exist as a society without growth?
Okay. So we will destroy ourselves if we continue growing within the existing economic system. That is a no-brainer. The report was written in 71 and we read it and we didn't get it. So what is very important is that we know that within the present economic system of production and consumption, not just of beer, I mean, let's be honest, if you drink a cup of coffee, you're basically consuming only 0.2% of the biomass harvested by a farmer. Now, how could you ever have an economy where you only give value to 0.2% and give nothing to the farmer on top of that? So I think we need to change, transform the economic system. If you have an economic system where first you can have your cup of coffee, then you grow your mushrooms on the waste of the coffee, and then the waste, after having harvested mushrooms, you can use to feed your chickens, they will give you eggs, then I have a growth economy. But the growth economy that doesn't require the earth to produce more. That doesn't require mines to be excavated more. We do more with what we already have. And that is a transformation. So I agree, negative growth economy in the old system, or a high growth economy in a complete new system where we operate exactly as rainforests do. A rainforest always generates 500 tons of biomass per year. And we slash the rainforest that do 500 tons per year and we replace it by soy, genetically modified with chemicals, that barely does 20 tons. I mean, can you be more destructive? Or could I say, can you be more stupid? Because this has nothing to do with intelligence.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay,
No, not just smart growth. Very different growth. In an ecosystem, in a system that is totally different from the one we have today. Totally.
Could a negative growth sustain itself, like a negative growth society? Do you think it has a potential chance of sustaining itself?
Well, it will implode in the present financial system. It will go through an implosion, and I hope it does. The faster the better. Let's get this crisis going. I mean, this is the only way we're going to get some of the old guys and the old guard changed. They're not going to change happily. So sometimes a good crisis is very healthy. Sometimes.
that was a surprising dark note, suddenly, in your very harmonious story. I wanted to come back to this inspiration goal. I like your goal. Inspiring. I think one way to inspire is to show things that work, which you did quite well with a lot of stories. I think another way of inspiring can be to show insecurities, fears, things you worry about, and try to see if people feel it too and get activated by it. So I want to ask you, can you share things you fear and you feel insecure about?
You know, I am very, very scared about what we eat. I'm terrified with the food that is being served today. Terrified. I mean, we have no idea where it comes from. The only certificates we can get is something that is called organic food. And organic food basically tells us what is not in there. It tells us there is no chemicals, there is no pesticide, there is no GMO, but we don't know what is in there. So to me, my greatest fear and my greatest necessity is to start redesigning our food chains. We have to buy nutrition. I mean, when you buy a cell phone, you don't buy and buy the kilo, right? When you buy a television, you don't buy and buy the kilogram. But when you buy food, everything is reduced to price per kg. I don't get it. I don't get it. Do you want to have meat or do you want nutrition? Do you want to have protein, hydrocarbons? What do you want? And we want nutrition. We don't want kilograms. Certainly not accumulating in our bodies. And so it's amazing that the most precious we have, the medicine we have in life is food, and the medicine in life we have, we calculate by the kilogram. I don't get it. So, my fear is we're eating ourselves to death with the wrong food in the wrong time, and the greatest passion I have today is how we turn food around. And it's not just about GMO and chemistry. It is really the nutrition we're having. Can I give you a concrete example? This is our new product. This is a design product. It's called Solid Coffee. This little 10-gram bar of coffee equals a double espresso. It actually equals a Red Bull. A Red Bull of 330 grams, this is 10 grams. In order to make this, we use the complete coffee cherry outside, inside. We mix it with 40% cacao butter, and here it is. Enjoy it. What I think is important is we have reduced the mass from a Red Bull by a factor 30. Same effect. Because we focus on the nutrition. You want to get the kick of caffeine, right? I mean, you just don't want Red Bull. You have something in there that gives you something you want and enjoy. So what we've done is we've put it in there, concentrated, and then we realize that the cascara of the coffee is full of antioxidants, so it is a tiny bit of caffeine and full of antioxidants, because we want antioxidants. You know who's our biggest market for this? Gamers. Yeah, because if you're gaming at night and you have had your 3 Red Bulls or 4 Red Bulls, you gotta go to the toilet. And when you're gaming, you don't want to leave your screen.
Diapers.
Oh, you can wear diapers behind the screen. Yeah. Good point. I forgot about that. Very good point.
But wasn't the first principle to replace something with nothing?
One of the principles. The other principle, of course, is that you use what you have. So the principle is you use what you have. How come, I mean, I'm going to talk very blunt. How come Nespresso can pay $120 million to George Clooney in order for you to be feeling great about having an espresso, Whereas 120 million George Clooney got is more than all the farmers together got. Do we agree there's something not fair? And so this is why we need to redesign from the bottom up. And this is just one little product. But let me tell you the difference. When we can sell this little coffee bar at €1 a piece, which equals 2 espressos, which equals a Red Bull, we're earning for the farmer $100,000 a ton. $100,000 a ton compares to the $800 a ton they're getting today for fair trade certified organic coffee. This is what we need. This is growth. This is doing 100 times better in value. But we're degrowing the products that I consider as symbol of excessive consumption.
Alright. We have some questions over here.
Hi. Yeah, you mentioned this moment about how you mentioned this moment about how you think a crisis would be good for this sort of like complete unearthing of the system. But typically when there's a crisis, then the people who suffer are the ones who are already the least privileged. And I mean, it's becoming more and more clear that also the social structures of especially the West are becoming very polarized because of economic imbalances. And a lot of the products that you sell, I don't know how much they cost, but I mean, you mentioned giving them for free, but how do you expect to completely reinvent a system where people like Donald Trump and all these really powerful men who don't really care about the minorities are the ones in power still? How do you kind of expect to completely reinvent a system efficiently like this?
So let me be honest with you. I don't care about Trump and what he does. I focus on what we can do. I think we need to focus on where we can act and where we can be.
But what about the people that do care about Trump? How do you change their
I'm
minds?
not even trying to change them. Let me change the 5% that actually is ready to change, because we can tip the boat with 5%.
But if it's the privileged ones who are ready to change?
They're not only the privileged ones, because there is a difference in crisis. There are two factors. One is the crisis, two is resilience. And we, as privileged people, have the least resilience to crisis. Whereas people who are on the bottom of the pyramid have the highest strength of resilience. And that means that we are dependent on our survival, on the resilience of people on the bottom of the pyramid. And that is why we work in Africa, Latin America with the farmers, because it's the only way to start going is reconstruct from the bottom up. With those who are the basis of the food chain, the farmer, the fisherman. And only if you work there and redesign from there up, I think we have a chance.
Yeah, thanks. I was just wondering, it seems like you have everything going pretty well for you with this reinventing of production schemes and production lines. But what we've heard so far, it seems like everything is very positive in the whole process. Is there anywhere where you have felt that maybe there's someone losing on these new processes that you're coming up with as well?
So the most important of the system design is that there are no losers, because we can design it so that there's an all-inclusive. But that you need to reassure yourself and you need to comfort yourself and have the transparency to the outside, and that you do with mathematical modeling so that anyone who sees the system and finds people who are left out can be included. But if your basic principle is starting from the bottom of the pyramid, where the people have the least chance to survive, like the farmer and the fisherman, then you have a chance to really be an inclusive person. You can't do that in Eindhoven. Sorry. Neither in Brussels.
But what about eco-fair example? Didn't you come to the realization that you're chopping down rainforest in Indonesia?
Of course, yes.
So that's maybe something that would be nice to share.
The question will be repeated.
It wasn't a question.
Or comment.
Right.
The ladies in the people in the back couldn't hear what you said.
So Ecover, the company that Mr. Pauli mentioned,
Gunter.
they were chopping down rainforests in Indonesia to get the palm oil to create the cleaning detergents to make European rivers clean.
Correct.
So that led to a sort of crisis,
Not the sort of crisis, the
a
big crisis.
major crisis, where you're thinking you have a zero waste, zero output factory. That's a great example, but actually, if you look at it holistically, there are some major problems.
I fully agree. So this is one of the reasons why, from that experience onwards, I only do mathematical modeling in everything we do, so that we can map out everything that we think it needs to be included. I mean, just imagine upcycling, zero emissions, zero waste, great factory, grass roof, capilline underwear, and all of what you want with bicycles. And then I'm Indonesia, and then I realize I am the destroyer of the rainforest. And I was biodegradable in my products and all the rest, but I was not sustainable. Worse, I was destroyed. But let me tell you the complete story. When I landed back next day in Brussels, I took a train immediately to the Netherlands, and I came to Amsterdam to meet with the head, Paul Gilding, of Greenpeace. And I suggested Greenpeace would launch a campaign against me, with me, confessing. And Greenpeace didn't take it up. They didn't understand what I was doing. What do you want? A campaign against yourself? Yes, I need a campaign against myself. And I think sometimes that's a crisis for me. That is an existential crisis. And so then I spent 6 months outside of everything, sold all what I had, in order to focus on getting, at least trying to get things right and on the right track. But with a transparent system where whenever there is something that is not right, everyone can see and correct and influence and build. That's the call of today, open source, transparency.
So I also have a question.
Yes, please. I'll sit down.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by the way that you speak business. And now I want to mention a dirty word, which is spirituality, which is something that I think is devoid from our lives. It's something that I struggle to find. And I was wondering if you have an idea of spirituality, and maybe it's a different relationship with your environment, all and keeping in touch with that through this businessy talk that we have to do in this world.
Well, my assistant Guillaume was with me now for 4 days, and he has heard a few different speeches. This is probably the least business speech I've given, and I can do a spiritual speech as well, if you give me another 30 minutes. But it's obvious that we have to be polyvalent. We have to have the different dimensions of ourselves. And spirituality is definitely not a dirty word. It is something, as you say, that we're missing. And that is one of the reasons why some of the projects, I didn't get to them, but some of them are inspired by very simple words that we can get from the Bible. If you want spiritual from the Bible, or for the Muslim, or wherever, we can take it straight out. Because we need to bring back those basic principles. I mean, it's not coincidence the Pope was on there. I'm on the board in the Vatican of the foundation that works on science and religion. I'm sitting in the middle there. How do we get the science reconciled with religion? And that's not Christianity only. That is all the religions. By the way, I'm a Buddhist. I married Buddhists in Japan. And so I just want to say...
Yeah. Yesterday I read something about that in Buddhism you have 3 concepts of identity. So you have the identity of your physical self, the identity of your thoughts, so all of that chatter. And then the third identity is of the entire universe, because that's also you. And then, yeah, I was mulling over this in the train, and I was thinking that's quite a useful concept of identity to take along with you when you're doing business or taking care of your garden or whatever it is that you do.
But let's talk about design principles, okay? One of the great things of design principles, I'm standing up because otherwise you can't see me and I can't see you.
One of the important things in design principles is that the Christian world, the Muslim and the Jewish world, has a linear view of time. That has a major impact on design principles, whereas the Asian philosophies are circular. I mean, you don't have to tell them, let's do circular economy. For them, that's life. Life is circular. And so as a result, it's quite strange that circular economy is a big boom here, because yeah, we're always so linear. But in the Asian culture, it's always circular. And I think that is where spirituality, where religious thought, belief, has actually culturally conditioned designs. And I think there we need to have some liberty. But, for example, in the Christian religions, there is clearly stated in the Old Testament, from ash you came and from ash you will go. That means that is circularity. I mean, hey, it's in there. They figured that one out already 5,500 years ago. And so it's very important we kind of go back to our roots and find those components, because it was already spelled out to us in important religious texts.
I have a quick question, if that's okay. Realistically, there are a lot of businesses right now, also small businesses, that are willing to change. They see they see a better way to kind of have their whole processes run in a more ecological fashion. But there's obviously this cost of change. There's risk involved, bringing all forces together in one. How do you see certain drivers to implement that change for those cases?
The most important missing factor in driving change is people who want to be entrepreneurs, change agents. Not just entrepreneurs for business, entrepreneurs in the environment, entrepreneurs in the social, entrepreneurs in the cultural. We need people who are ready to change fundamentally and find models of living within that change. That is the key. It's not change in order to make more money, become a unicorn and filthy rich. No, it is change. And so we need a generation of young people who are not forced to be entrepreneurs, like the immigrants who tried to cross the Mediterranean, but young people who feel that this is an incredible opportunity to be a vector of change in society.
I have another question here. You're often referring to these mathematical models, so I guess it has some significance for your way of working, but for us from a design school where we have hardly any, or we don't have any math, I was wondering if you could elaborate and make this a little bit more accessible for us.
Yeah. So what we would like to see is a mathematics that allows us to grasp the impacts we have when we do things. So theoretically, it's called system dynamics. It was developed at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, by a professor called Jay Forrester. And it allows us to look at the interrelation, for example, between population, pollution, food production, health, industry, mining, fisheries. You know, we can kind of map what is going on in the world, and we define how it relates to each other. That means an equation. It's just numbers that you say that if I now have a cup of coffee and I only use 0.2% of the bean, that means that if I were to use 100% of the bean, then at least I can do 500 times better. That's a multiplier. Now, the 500 times better means that you will be healthier and that the farmer gets paid more. That has, again, impacts on the local economy for the farmer, but it also has an impact on your health conditions. And so what we do with these mathematical models is we start to map out everything in relation to each other.
Wait, what is everything? Just to jump in, if I can. What is everything? Because
Everything
are
we
there
can
limits?
grasp. So one of the things that you do in a system design of these models, you decide how far you want to go. Who reads Fritjof Capra? So if you read Fritjof Capra, the system is the system of the systems. You have subsystems. You need to know the boundaries. So all within a boundary, but you define the boundary yourself.
Can you measure happiness?
Of course you can measure that. I mean, I've been working for 25 years with Bhutan. We started measuring in Bhutan already 21 years ago how to calculate happiness. Now, the way that the Bhutanese calculate happiness is not at all the way we are happy. That's a different happiness. And so we have to have respect for the different appreciation of how we define happiness. Happiness should not be 1,000 likes on your Facebook. I mean, we can agree on that, I hope.
Maybe I get happy from that.
Yeah, but then we need to talk.
But do you think there's a limit to what you can measure?
The great thing is that computer power has come to the point, and the mathematical modeling comes to a point that you can map everything. That's why you sometimes see these screens behind, where you have the capacity to really bring a lot together. That means we can be much more democratic, involve many more people's opinion, and it's not because the word is a mathematical model. The word is that we can include everyone's impacts, side effects, advantages into something that becomes transparent. Yeah?
Hello? Can you hear me? You talk a lot about examples that have to do with the food chain. That's mostly about like vegetation, let's say. I was wondering what your opinion on the meat industry?
Sorry, which industry?
Meat.
Meat! Of course we can talk about meat. Let me just talk about meat. Where is my meat? No, it's not here. Oh, no. Not in this presentation. Sorry.
Bring up yesterday's.
Bring up yesterday's, yeah, right. Yesterday. So meat has several issues. First of all, should we eat it or not? Second, if you decide to eat it, how do you treat the animal? And let me just start building a little mathematical modeling around it. First of all, in order to have 1 kilogram of meat, you need 15,000 liters of water. That means you basically should only have meat where there is water. If you don't have water, you shouldn't have meat. But we are treating animals not even like an animal. We're degrading every animal to a kilogram that is sold in a store at the lowest possible price. So we have a business model created around meat that is destined to mistreat the animal and destined to give you bad quality nutrition. So I am not the one who decides that you should or should not eat meat. I prefer to be a vegetarian and not have any meat. But if someone decides to have meat, then I prefer that it's a good quality meat. I'll give you one example. Normally, when they're pigs, farm pigs in Europe today, no pig lives longer than 6 months. Now, when a pig has no chance to live longer than 6 months, you never get the nutrition of the pig. You get kilograms. If you let a pig live for 12 months and more, then the pig will have more omega-3 than the salmon that got the omega-3 from overfishing herrings in Peru. Now, you see how we model things? We start modeling that in mathematical models. But what we now do, and we have the first farm in Germany where we have the pigs and the chickens together. Because in order to have healthy pigs, the pig needs to get rid of some bugs. And who is the best one to get rid of the bugs? The chicken. A chicken will never have a bug surviving on any place of the pig, wherever it is, under the tail or behind his ears. The bugs are gone. But on the other hand, the pig gives a warmth to the chicken, and we have houses I can show you where they live together. Ground floor is the pig, first floor is the chicken. And the chickens are warmth, and the human warmth, the pig warmth, the human warmth is like a pig, and because it's the same temperature. So then the chickens will give more eggs. So we have proven we have higher productivity of the chickens laying eggs because the warmth of the pig. On one condition, the pig must learn how to pee before going to sleep. And we have today all our pigs trained in 3 days to be clean. A 1-month-old pig learns how to be clean. Now, if you are having pigs that are clean after 1 month, that means that you don't need to clean up after the pig. As a result, you create a healthy environment without ammonia, without the bad fumes, and you're creating a condition where we can have biodigesters producing massive biogas because the pig just goes to the toilet right there in the corner before they go inside the house. You see, this is what we need to map out. This is what we need to design. This is what we need to calculate, because then we can say the pig lives a happy life, and we thank the pig for giving this incredible nutrition to us. And we're saving in the meantime an overfishing in Peru from herrings, so that these salmon farms in Norway hopefully one day will go out of business. But, sorry for the economics now, we're paying the pork meat the same price as salmon, which means that we pay 3 times more for pork than today is being paid. Why? Because of nutrition. The pig is full of omega-3. Okay?
We have a question over here.
Hi, I have a question. Today, actually, I got an assignment that I can help with a project in Ghana to make a sustainable hub in Kumasi. And actually, what is happening there is that there's a lot of metal waste, and they asked me to kind of generate ideas for this sustainable hub. So I was just wondering, as you are here, can you maybe think with me a little bit?
You want me to do your assignment
No,
in public?
I was just thinking, hearing you speaking, like, what do you think about metal waste? Because this waste is there now in that river, and so.
So first of all, I would suggest don't go to Kumasi, go to Obuasi. Go where the crisis is even bigger. I know Ghana very well. We have many projects in Ghana. And so Obuasi is further north of Kumasi. And anyone from Ghana here? No? So it's very important. I think this is the metal world. This is the world where gold is being, that's where Ashanti started. So Ashanti Gold, the large gold mines, one of the oldest gold mines in the world, and it's total destruction. Total destruction. The ecosystems are destroyed. The social systems are destroyed. It's corruption with payments in order to get gold licenses, etc. It's a dramatic area. So it's very important. Would you go yourself there?
No, I suggested not to go because I think it's maybe a shame. I'm not sure yet. Today
let me motivate you to go.
Okay.
I will organize introductions. I'll make certain you will be well received.
Okay.
Okay? But you should go. This is a unique opportunity. Ghana is a country with incredible opportunities because there's so many resources wasted, including the metals and including mercury. One of the heavy metals they're missing is the mercury, because of course they've been working gold with mercury for decades, centuries. So you have a great opportunity.
Yeah, he suggested a week, and I said, I know these
That's
But
too short.
It's way too short.
Way too short. Let's go for a month.
I don't want to fly for 1 week to Ghana.
No, you shouldn't do that. I agree with you.
So I'm a little bit looking like what is now.
Now the plan is you go for a month, and we organize your stay, and I want you to move from Kumasi to Uwasi, and I want you to see the worst of what mining has created in modern history. And then I'll send you my set of suggestions that we have worked out, which maybe together we can help implement.
Yeah, that will be amazing because I just.
We're on track, yeah?
Okay, this is a good opportunity to generate some impact.
Yeah.
Right? So
Of course you can.
I just wanted to share with you the opportunity that I got today from the Dutch government, and I think.
So tell them yes, but 1 month.
Okay.
And if they say why, you said Professor Pauli told me to. They know me over there. Yes, please.
I've got an example. Pretend somebody's a company that started with and they're using bioindustry. That's where they slaughter animals as a slaughterhouse. So it's been going on for about 2 years, and they've earned a lot of money. You've bought from that company, and now you're demonizing it, even though that you ate the meat and you were supporting them for a while. What do you think? Because kids out my class have been doing that a lot. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think we should demonize anyone. We should always accompany people in order to get better. I mean, no one is born perfect and everyone will make mistakes, and so we always have to have people who guide us how we can succeed in making things much better. Demonizing is not a good idea. Thank you.
Do you have another one of the coffee bars?
Yes, of course I do. Yes.
But I also
What is this? Oh, where's my bag? Have you seen my bag? Yes. I had a bag somewhere. Here it is. I have more than one. You're not supposed to have it because it'll keep you awake all night. Here is one.
Thank you.
Who wants? Go to the back. Who else wants? Every side? But you give it to, no, give it to your mom. Because if you eat it, you don't sleep. So, we're making them in oh, I have another one. No. Santa Claus is over.
Thank you.
So first you eat, then you ask.
I don't wanna speak with my mouth, but I'm sorry.
No. We'll give you 5 minutes. In the meantime, someone else will do that. We'll ask another question.
Yeah. I think we've been talking about very interesting issues, but I think they're also quite small compared to, for example, energy. And I think you have to really look more at the basic things like heat, housing, electricity, and I think you soon reach certain physical boundaries that you cannot just erase with innovation, because if you want to fly from here to China, you need this certain amount of energy to do that, and there's no way you can do that sustainably. And if you cook with an electric stove, it will be less efficient than with a fire. So aren't you maybe a bit overestimating what you can do as an entrepreneur? Because things like infrastructures, they need politics and policies and the community, and you can't just go there as an entrepreneur and build a bike path or redo a nation's electricity grid.
So, very good point. I am not a wave, I am a surfer. As a designer, I'm surfing waves, and the capacity of a great designer is to identify the waves and put yourself on them and surf. If you need the politics, then you're trying to be a wave, and it's going to require too much of your energy. So keep in mind, for your own personal life design, you want to be a surfer and not the wave. Now, when you are a surfer, you look for the waves where things are possible. And you're not going to have to be small when you look at the waves in a big way. Concrete example. I'm working in Morocco. Anyone from Morocco here? Love your country. Love your country. Where are you from? Oh, Fez, yeah. So I work in the south of Morocco, in Ayoun. You know Tarfaya? Have you been to Tarfaya? Who knows Tarfaya? You know Tarfaya, how come?
No, I haven't been there, but I know about it.
And what do you know about it?
Not so much, I just talked about it when you're like in high school in biology class. You wrote something about a forest? No.
Yeah, sea forests, etc., and the dunes, but Tarfaya is to me one of the most wonderful places in the world because there was an artist called Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. You know him? He wrote a little book, Le Petit Prince. Le Petit Prince was written in Tarfaya. Hey, wake up! Tarfaya inspired Saint-Exupéry to write Le Petit Prince. We should all go and be inspired by Tarfaya. That's how I think. So I'm in Tarfaya, I'm working there, and we look at the site. And I wonder why was Saint-Exupéry so inspired by this place to write a book that is translated in 310 languages, that is being read by over 2 billion people. That matches the Bible. Wow. So he wrote something that really touched people. And so I'm there and I see it's the Mecca of seaweeds. And today we're launching the projects for 4,500 square kilometers of platforms of seaweeds. So we are thinking big and crazy, but 4,500 square kilometers of seaweeds allows us to produce all the gas through fermentation with seaweeds, and the waste we have left over from the gas are phosphates. How do we get phosphates today? Through mining. That's master designs. $25 billion investment, that's not going to come out of my pockets.
Well, that's a very local solution.
That's a very local solution, I know. It's a tiny local solution, it's not very important.
It should be about all our lifestyles because they're the most wasteful.
But you have to not think about one project only. You have to think about hundreds of projects all in parallel. Okay? How many people are in this room? 150? 200 people? We have to think in 200 projects. So don't think big, think in multiples. It's not the economy of scale, it is what each individual can take as a scope. And then when you do that 200 times in a room like this, you start changing, and here and there. Not one initiative, multiple. And every single initiative has multiple effects. And that allows us to start turning the system around. Let it work for you. Be a surfer. Go on the waves. How was it?
It was good. It's really bitter. If people like that, it's really good.
Well, espresso is bitter as well, you know. I mean, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. So a bit about this bottom-up approach, or what actually a bit related to what you were saying. So if you had the chance to get more people into buying this product, for example, the coffee bar, by employing, for example, George Clooney with the same amount of money that Nespresso did to market your product?
Never.
You would never make that investment.
Never.
So you don't have the intention to scale up.
No, we have the intention to scale up, but not through Clooney and 120 million euro.
Okay.
Come on. No way. My principles are clear.
Okay.
Now, in Latin America, in Colombia, a Colombiana, see, my partner, you know him. My partner in Colombia is Carlos Vives. And Claudia Elena. They are my partners. They have restaurants. And so, their restaurants serve 11,000 people a week. That's 11,000 of these units a week. And when Carlos Vives says, this is great, what do you think everyone does? Have it. Try it, at least. And so, we go for partners that have certain visibility within their environment, but not against pay. My pay to Carlos Vives is he wants to develop Santa Marta. And I want La Perla, la Fundación La Perla de Carlos Vives to be successful in getting revenues for the Arahuacas and the Kogis in the mountains of Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. That's what we do. And there we move on. Okay? It is smaller, but it's multiple. Many of them.
But
Not one. Big.
It's also a logical fallacy to say either George Clooney or you don't want to scale up. You know, that's just setting a trap. That doesn't. It's not. It's not.
I think I didn't fall into the trap.
No, you didn't. But like even the way. No, but the way of thinking is
You
not
have
black
to
and
join
white.
us up here in the video.
Okay.
But actually we're finishing up now. I see people are already at the bar, but we have one more question.
Oh, people are at the bar.
Yeah.
Of course, because that's where the beer is.
Yeah.
One more last question. They say the best question we say for last. You're a very eloquent speaker. Thank you very much for being here. I have two great questions. First, it seems you've been everywhere in the world. Have you been to Afghanistan? And if no, can we initiate a project there? That's my question.
Never been to Afghanistan.
Okay, there's an opportunity for us there.
I think the U.S. security services don't appreciate my presence. Perhaps.
Don't worry. I'll guide you there. I have local connection. But aside the jokes, yeah, it seems you've been connected in Ghana. I have connection in Afghanistan. But aside that, my background is in corporate strategy and economics as well. It seems like I'm in a bubble of all social justice warriors. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for making this accessible. My question to you would be, what's your idea about the future of education? Because I believe if you want to change the world, start with the future managers, future leaders, future entrepreneurs. My point is there is parallelity in our society. I would never meet these kind of brilliant people in my university. Do you have an opinion what you can change in the education system?
So, education starts at the age of 3. When they're doing MBAs, it's already a lost case. So, some of you may know that every single thing that we have done and that worked somehow and was inspiring has been translated into a children's story. I've written 286 children's fables, and I tell stories to kids. And I have one great privilege that the Chinese government like my fables, and my fables are in all 735,000 schools in China. Amazing. But what is more amazing to me is not that I had the opportunity. The amazing thing is that the Chinese government decided that kids should be inspired. I mean, this is the last government in the world I would ever expect to be asked someone to inspire the kids. And that's what they're doing. You know, we have an amazing feedback from the Chinese children. So we start with the age of 3 up to the age of 15. And I have an agreement with the Chinese government to train 50,000 teachers over 10 years. You know, if we don't start rethinking education, and it's not the iPad, it's not the electronics,
it is not the digitization. I think, if I may ask all of you, one promise for tonight is that from now on, every day, you will tell a short, inspiring story to a child. And if every day you tell a short, inspiring story to a child, you change the world. For sure. Today, kids are bombarded with the bad news. They see only terrible things on whatever screens they're looking at. And we have a responsibility to inspire them with a great story that many adults believe is fantasy. But kids have one great advantage, that they don't think there is something like fantasy. For kids, everything is reality.
On the topic of inspiring, this has been very inspiring, so thank you, Professor Pauli. We do have a small gift.
Is it beer?
No, it's not beer, no beer. Yeah, thank you everyone so much for coming here tonight. People asking questions is really what makes this so great and always a joy. Special thank you to Kai, Gijs and Poliana for being so brave here. Applause for them.